Imagine drifting through the endless void of space, silent, vast, unforgiving. For centuries, humanity gazed at the heavens, whispering into the cosmic abyss, sending golden records and radio waves like messages in bottles cast into an infinite sea. We yearned for a reply, proof that we were not alone. We thought we were ready, but some answers should never be received. One fateful day, the world changed forever. It began with a blip, a whisper on the electromagnetic spectrum, so faint it nearly went unnoticed. The Deep Space Monitoring Station at Arecibo first picked it up, then Jodrell Bank, then a dozen observatories across the globe. What started as a simple anomaly became impossible to ignore. It was not random noise, not pulsar signals, not cosmic radiation. It was structured, intelligent, deliberate. At precisely 0342, Coordinated Universal Time, the full transmission was deciphered, a single phrase, repeated over multiple frequencies, resonating in perfect synchronization. You are not alone. A message so simple yet so profound. The world erupted. News stations broadcast the signal on a constant loop. Crowds gathered in the streets, cheering, crying, praying. Social media exploded. Debates, theories, speculation running rampant. Was this the dawn of a new era? The greatest discovery in human history? World governments scrambled. NASA, the ESA, and China's CNSA formed emergency task forces. The United Nations convened in a secret emergency session discussing how to respond. The SETI Institute, once dismissed as a fringe pursuit, became the epicenter of global focus. Then, something unexpected happened. The message changed. New symbols, new patterns, a sequence of mathematical progressions unmistakable in meaning. They had learned our language. Earth's brightest minds worked tirelessly to translate the next transmission. Their answer came in a form humanity understood, visual data. A digital construct of light and color, fractal sequences unraveling into recognizable patterns. A star chart, a location. They wanted to meet. But deep beneath the excitement, hidden away in encrypted government channels, another revelation lurked. One that never reached the public, because this was not the first time Earth had received such a message. Locked within the classified archives of military black sites, buried in old Cold War dossiers, was the record of an earlier signal. A transmission, nearly identical in structure, yet profoundly different in intent. Its message had been brief, urgent, do not respond. They are coming. The warning had arrived decades ago, and it had been ignored. But now it was too late. We had answered, and in doing so, we had sealed our fate. The world's response was swift. A global coalition of scientists, linguists, and military strategists was formed overnight. They called it Project Dawnstar, an initiative designed to facilitate first contact. The United Nations, for the first time in history, moved beyond politics, beyond borders. They drafted an official response, one filled with greetings, mathematical, constants, and a declaration of peace. A message of hope. It was broadcast across every known frequency, pulsed into deep space, sent via radio, laser, even neutrino bursts, ensuring that no matter how they communicated, our answer would be heard. It was within 72 hours the response came. This time it wasn't a signal. It was an object, a vessel. It materialized at the edge of our solar system, beyond Neptune's orbit, just outside the Kuiper belt. A behemoth of blackened metal, motionless, silent, watching. Telescopes locked onto its surface, revealing impossible geometries. Angles that seemed to shift when observed. Markings that defied human understanding. It dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, its sheer scale more akin to a small moon than a spacecraft. For days it remained there, waiting. And then it moved. Not through propulsion, not through any detectable thrust. It simply was. One moment, in one place and then the next, closer. Within hours it crossed the vast chasm between Neptune and Saturn. Ignoring every law of physics humanity understood, panic set in. The United Nations Space Command scrambled to launch diplomatic envoys, but behind closed doors, militaries across the globe activated their highest defense protocols. Fleets of warships repositioned. Ballistic missile silos were primed. Every doomsday scenario that had once seemed like science fiction was now terrifyingly real. Then came the final message. Unlike the others, this one did not arrive as a transmission. It arrived as a voice, broadcast across every radio frequency, every satellite, every television and device on Earth. It was deep, hollow, alien, yet unmistakably filled with intention. Your invitation is acknowledged. Prepare for judgment. The world stood still. This was no exchange of culture, no peaceful encounter, no diplomatic overture. This was a reckoning, and humanity had just been deemed unworthy. The skies burned red before the first shot was even fired. The alien vessel, once a distant phantom beyond the stars, had arrived in orbit. Not with the fiery descent of a comet, nor the slow, calculated approach of a known spacecraft. It simply appeared, its massive silhouette blotting out entire portions of the sky. Then, the anomalies began. At first, it was subtle. Electrical disturbances, brief blackouts, satellite malfunctions. Then entire cities went dark. Power grids collapsed. The digital backbone of modern civilization erased in an instant. Then came the storm. A shimmering aurora, brilliant, hypnotic, spread across the upper atmosphere, rippling in unnatural hues unseen in Earth's spectrum. Scientists thought it was a reaction to the vessel's energy output. They were wrong. It wasn't an effect, it was a weapon. Within minutes, the aurora condensed into thousands of burning fissures in the sky, like cracks in reality itself. And from them they came. Not in ships, not in dropships. They stepped through, tall, silent, unnatural. Their bodies were wrong, almost humanoid, but elongated, shifting in ways the human brain struggled to comprehend. Their eyes, or what passed for them, were black voids, endless, soulless, absorbing. The light around them, they did not speak, they did not negotiate, they simply began. The first attack struck Beijing. A single pulse of energy rippled outward, and within seconds a city of 20 million became an ocean of molten glass. No fire, no radiation, just erasure. Then Moscow, then Delhi, then Washington, D.C. One by one, the world's capitals vanished, wiped clean from the surface of the Earth. Survival was no longer an option. This was extermination. Humanity fought back with everything it had. Nuclear warheads were launched, fired in desperate, reckless abandon. Missiles streaked through the sky, carrying the last hope of survival. But as they neared their targets, they stopped, hung in the air, suspended as if time itself had frozen. And then, without ceremony, without effort, each warhead crumbled to dust, breaking apart like ancient ruins, subjected to the slow erosion of time. Weapons of mass destruction, reduced to nothing in an instant. That was when the realization set in. This was not war. This was a purge, and Earth was already lost. The world burned. What once stood as monuments to human civilization, our cities, our history, our very existence, were reduced to nothing more than echoes in the dust. The invaders moved with the cold efficiency of a force that had done this before. Countless times, governments collapsed within hours. The military, despite its last-ditch efforts, had no weapons capable of resisting something that could unmake reality itself. Yet, amid the overwhelming destruction, pockets of resistance remained. Beneath the smoldering ruins of New York, a group of survivors huddled deep within an abandoned subway tunnel, their faces lit only by the flickering glow of failing emergency lights. Among them were scientists, soldiers, engineers, anyone who had managed to escape the first wave. Dr. Elias Munro, a leading astrophysicist from the now-destroyed Geneva Research Institute, sat cross-legged in the dirt, poring over the fragments of intercepted alien signals. His hands trembled as he adjusted his glasses, his voice barely above a whisper. "We got it all wrong," he muttered, his breath ragged. The others turned toward him. "What do you mean?" a soldier asked, clutching his rifle. Though deep down, He knew it was useless. Monroe exhaled, his mind unraveling the horrifying truth. The message we received wasn't the beginning of the conversation. Silence. It wasn't their first transmission. It was their last. The weight of... His words hung in the air like a death sentence. For years we had assumed we had made first contact, that humanity had reached out, and something had responded. But the reality was much worse. We had answered too late. The first message, the warning that had been buried, ignored, was not sent to us. It was sent from us, from a future that no longer existed. A desperate plea from a civilization on the brink of annihilation, echoing backward through the fabric of time itself. The final cry of a species that had seen its own doom and tried in vain to stop it. We weren't just fighting an enemy. We were trapped in a cycle, a loop of destruction, playing out over and over across time, across realities, a script written in the ashes of a billion dead worlds. And this was just our turn. The revelation shattered what little hope remained. If the message had come from us, from a doomed future already consumed by this horror, then escape was impossible. No matter what choices humanity made, no matter how we fought, the outcome was always the same. And yet, something didn't add up. Dr. Monroe's hands shook as he traced the alien transmission, overlaying it with the ancient warning buried in classified archives. The signals were eerily similar, structured identically, encoded in the same cryptic pattern. But there was a difference. A fraction of a percentage, so minuscule it should have been meaningless. It wasn't the same message, not exactly. Something had changed. A single variable, small, almost imperceptible, was different from the version buried in government files. Decades ago, which meant the loop wasn't perfect. Humanity had played out this nightmare before. But each time something shifted. A new detail, a different reaction. A choice that altered the sequence of events, even if only slightly. Was this the key? Was this the moment the cycle could finally be broken? Monroe's mind raced. We sent a message forward, and it came back different. His voice was breathless now, which means we can still change it. A surge of desperate hope swept through the survivors. If even the smallest deviation had occurred, then perhaps, buried, somewhere in the endless iterations of this cosmic death spiral, there existed a version of humanity that escaped. But how? The answer arrived, in the form of a shadow. The air in the tunnel grew cold, the flickering emergency lights dimmed to nothingness. And then they were there. The invaders did not walk. They did not move in any way that made sense. They simply were an absence of light and form standing at the threshold of reality itself. A voice, if it could be called that, resonated not through sound, but through the very fabric of existence. You should not be aware. Monroe's heart pounded. His mind felt like it was unraveling. They knew, they had seen the shift, the change, the divergence, and they had come to correct it. The survivors barely had time to react before the tunnel around them ceased to exist, not destroyed, simply unmade. And then, darkness, silence, oblivion. The world was gone. Yet, somewhere in the depths of a distant star system, a beacon pulsed, weak, faint, a single phrase repeating into the void, waiting for something, someone, to hear it. Do not respond. They are coming. But this time, someone was listening, and for the first time in countless cycles, they chose differently. What do you think? Was this the end, or the first time humanity finally broke the cycle? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more deep sci-fi mysteries, subscribe to XenoChronicles. Until next time, stay vigilant.